It's good evening, Gary Waldon. Thanks for joining us at Yellow Shelf.
Thanks, Joe. Great to be here. And you and I had a little chat beforehand, and this is going to be a hoot.
And we did. Everyone who I interview, we always have that sort of pre-chat, and it's so good because I think we're both pumped. Congratulations, your book is out this week, Mastering the Art of Reinvention. Congratulations, Gary. What do we need to know about your newest book?
Well, my newest book is all about the world that we live in and reinventing yourself. And so, life throws at us all these curveballs along the way, challenges, and some are good. So let's say you get a new job, you have a new addition to the family, you get married, you win lotto. All of those things mean that there's a new you that needs to come about because the old you doesn't exist in the world that you used to know. And so when you get to have this thing of, okay, who am I in my new world? Then that's a whole sort of shift. And your organizational change or psychology background and my transformational change background, we've seen people go through that trauma
Yeah.
of when they want to change. And even if it's for a good reason, imposter syndrome is a perfect example of when you've climbed the corporate ladder and all of a sudden you're going, do I belong here? And no, well, yes, you belong there, but you don't belong in your past life. And that's what mastering the art of reinvention is.
Yeah, and when I got your book and I started to read it, and I was sharing with you earlier, there's so much of this book that I can relate to on my journey, my career, the journey of Yellow Shelf. Life is always going to deal up these changes, and we're going to evolve as humans. And no matter what we have to tackle in life, I think it's so exciting to be able to kind of focus on the opportunities. And I think reading your book, that's what really helped me thinking about opportunities ahead.
Yeah, and thank you for that. Because it is really about the ahead. Because one of the things I play in over in my mind regularly is all too often we focus on the past, and quite often we focus too far in the future. The only thing we have is right now, because that's the only real world that we live in.
Yeah.
And so then being able to go, well, things have changed, but I want to take the only thing I can control often is how I manage and adapt to that change. And that's where the art comes in because you and I could be presented with the same change,
Hmm.
but your background, who you are, the person that you are, the fact that you've created Yellow Shelf, all of those great things make you. My world is completely different. I've been a school teacher, I've been a milkman, I've been a topless waiter, all those weird things.
Yeah.
And they have make me into who I am. So exactly the same problem, but we will approach it in different ways because that's where the art comes in. It's like an artist with a paintbrush. You'll paint the things that you see for your next part of your life.
Yeah, and Gary, I'm curious about what inspired you to write this book because I know you've got a previous book, Sort Your Shit Out, which is
Yeah.
still available. I noticed today it's still available on Amazon. What was the idea in writing this new book at this point? Because the other book was about 4 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 4 years ago during COVID,
Yeah.
and it still is changing people's lives today. So, there's a gentleman that I have worked with or met at the gym, sorry, and he'd lost half his body weight. And
Wow.
his ability to adapt his brain to being, I'm now this person and not the larger person, obese person, in his words,
Yeah.
is part of that shift. And so, out of that, when we did that book, everybody came back and said, "Oh, how do you go about reinventing yourself?" Because COVID was that period of reinvention.
Yes.
And then as I started to unpack that, I went through, well, not only do we have these life-changing events, some are significant from a good part, some are significant from a bad part, but there's also the things that are factors in society. So, if you take what we've got right now in the world we live in, there's so much uncertainty. It's political, there's the economical part of it, and then there's the AI world, which there's so much uncertainty. You and I are talking about the fact that
Yeah.
we can use it for some of those creative
Yeah.
things we would have had to go and get a creative to do.
Yeah.
There's so much opportunity right at our fingertips now. But with that comes uncertainty because there's also this thing of people going doomsday. So where do we fit in this new age of AI? Am I out of a job?
Yeah.
Am I, I'm no longer the smartest person in the room. My
Mm.
AI computer is.
Yes.
My ChatGPT, my Gemini, they're all the things that are doing the next level of where we're evolving to as a society. Now,
Yeah.
if you see this fly flying around, I apologize because it's come to join the podcast.
Well, we are in Australia, so these things
Correct.
happen, don't they? Gary, tell us a bit about your background because one of the interesting things that I read about you is that you've had more than 40 jobs. And what I did today, Gary, is I wrote down all the jobs that I had that I could remember,
Love it.
and I'm getting close to 50, but I didn't come anywhere near to 40 plus. So tell us a bit about, I'd love to know about you and your journey.
Yeah, sure. So I call it the gig game.
Yes.
And so you've got to have been paid for the job
Okay.
and you can't use the same job title more than once.
Okay.
So I'm a program director, but I can only count that once in the things.
Sure.
So I started off as a milkman as one of my first jobs. I've worked at as a resort hand. I've been a school teacher. I've been a lecturer.
Yeah.
As I said, I was there when Manpower, the male review started. I
Yeah.
didn't have the dance moves. They
Yeah.
put me
Wow.
behind the bar with a bow tie
Yeah.
and a no shirt, and I had to go and serve Peter Allen back in those days, which was a bit of fun.
Wow.
And then from there, had a fashion business,
Yeah.
got into consulting. So my ex-wife and I had this fashion business,
Yep.
and then into consulting and a range of industries across there. But again, I can only count the job once by
Sure.
the title it's in there. We've from the fashion business, I've run an RTO or a registered training
Yeah.
organization. Most recently, I've just rolled out the electronic medical records into the Torres and Cape, and also into rural and remote areas. And so,
Wow.
out of some of this stuff, there's some really cool things that I've got to do. The other one is I got to create a bank for famous people
Oh,
with Grant
wow.
Hackett and Tim Horan. Went over and met Chris Hemsworth's agents and
Wow.
Oprah's bankers as part of setting this thing up. And you go, how did I get from being a milkman
Yeah.
to this? And it's all about the reinvention.
Yes. Yeah. What that's a great activity to do. No, you can't have the same job title, but yeah, that's a little test for everyone to kind of write down all the jobs you've had, not the same job title, and see how many you get. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Gary, just finally, the book is out on the 1st of June. Uh, where is the best place to connect with you? I love your website. I follow you on Instagram. Gary, you point us in the right direction and I'll put this in the show notes.
Did you just see the Australian swipe there, by the
I
way?
did. And the
Well done.
double. Yeah, well done.
Love it. Um, so you can connect with me on garywalden.com is my website.
Yep.
And then there's Gary Walden 2 on Insta, and Facebook is also Gary Waldon. So please jump in, join up, and let's have a chat along the way.
Yeah, no worries. Well, I'll put those connections to you in the show notes and also some links to the books. Congratulations, Gary. Will you write any more or am I getting ahead of myself? Like, is this
No,
something you love doing?
it's something that I kind of get inspired to do.
Okay.
And when I hear the stories of how it's helped people and
Yeah.
made their lives better, I then go into those things of what could I do next? And probably the next one is on failure.
Yeah, okay.
Imagine writing a book on failure. I don't even have to succeed because it's a book about failure.
Yeah, yeah. Gary, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the journey of releasing a book because that's a very exciting time. And people need to go and get the book and then, send you some feedback and give you
Would
some,
love that.
some great feedback. That'd be great. Great to meet you. All the best, Gary.
Thanks, Joe, and thanks for sharing.
Cheers.